how cold was it taking that river plunge?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Extremely cold.
Extremely cold. We were actually at some hot springs in Buena Vista, Colorado. We were in the hot springs, hanging out, relaxing. Played a show the night before, and we had a day off, so we decided to stick around and just hanging out in the hot springs. And it came to our attention that there was
the intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
The final weeks of 2022 are upon us as we're in the midst of the holiday season. Hope you had a great weekend, great week, great day, and maybe some good drinks as well. We got a great one for you this week. Our conversation is with half of the Jam Americana band, the Runaway Grooms. They're doing some pretty cool things. You'll get to hear all about that. And for tasting notes, we go into the world of Mexican spirits, and one that you probably don't know a whole lot about, and that is Sotol, as we talk with the founder of Cardenxe Sotol. And he explains everything about this very historic and almost forgotten Mexican spirit. It's a really cool one, and if you want to see the full interview we did with him and the extra tasting notes, you can go to our YouTube and Facebook pages to see that. But let's not waste any more time and get to the show.
Did you know Hops and Spirits is more than just this podcast? Check out hopspirits.com for our latest episode release, past episodes, interviews with interesting folks in the alcohol industry, and so much more. Just go to hopspirits.com. Feel free to wait until this podcast is done.
Joining us here for an extra tasting notes, he's one of the founders of Cardenxe Sotol. Did I say that right?
You did
was
say
even
right,
close?
Indeed. Very right.
And when push comes to shove, I guess when the camera's on, I can do well. Please welcome in Luigi Ambrosi.
Hey guys. Hi everyone. Hi Jonathan.
Well, I'm glad you could join us, Luigi. And for those that, if you're catching this on the Main Bar Conversations podcast, you're probably getting the shorter version. But if you want to see the full interview here, just go to our Facebook, YouTube page to check out the video. Info is in the podcast description, because we're talking about something pretty cool with Cardenxe. I feel like I had to get the facial expressions, or otherwise this was never going to work on me pronouncing it.
It's a whole experience. Pronouncing the brand is a whole experience in and of itself, even before drinking.
I love it. I've got a smile already, and we'll be talking about a different Mexican spirit called Sotol. Did I say that right?
Sotol, yes.
You kind of touched on it a little bit, where it comes from a very specific kind of region, or at least that's where it's kind of found its home, is in northern Mexico. But it can basically be produced anywhere in Mexico, right? Just with the right plant and ingredients, or what is kind of the base for it? Because everyone knows agave for tequila, but for Sotol, it's different.
Yes, it is. So tequila, mezcal is made from agave. There's different types of agave, of course, we know that. Sotol is actually the name of the plant, and it's an endemic. It's not actually an agave plant. It's like a little palmilla. Imagine a yucca palm without a trunk. So like a little palmilla. That's also another way in which people call it palmilla. They call it desert spoon. But really, the scientific name is Dacilirion. But the Sotol, as it's commonly known, is a plant endemic to the northern regions of Mexico, Chihuahua, Durango, Coahuila, spilling into the Texan, because southern Texas is the part of the Chihuahua Desert, so there's Sotol plants there as well. But actually, there is a Consejo Regulador that sort of like dictates the practices and delineates the region into which you can, in theory, produce Sotol and call it Sotol, just like it is for tequila in the tequila region. And that, the region for that is Durango, Chihuahua, and Coahuila. And now, while you may find here and there scattered little patches of Sotol plants around Mexico, not very frequent, I will say. If you do find, typically the taste profile is completely different from what Sotol might taste like. And it's not even called that. Sotol has a very unique sweetness and grassy herbality to it. And that comes from, the extreme temperature changes that you have in the north, very cold winters, very warm summers, days and night excursion as well. So that really plays a lot. And of course, the terroir itself, the soil on which it grows.
Well, and then, so you've basically also kind of said there's a major difference on what it is from tequila and mezcal. But for those wondering about the taste, because, tequila, everyone kind of knows what tequila tastes like. Mezcal's a little on the smokier side. But what about the Sotol? How does it play against those two that might be more common for folks?
I will say Sotol is a very unique experience. When you taste it, it really is something you haven't quite tasted before, and it's a whole flavor journey. On the tongue is quite different than when it hits the palate and then when it hits your chest. It's very smooth, I will say that. It is somewhere in between tequila and mezcal. It's not as complex and smoky as mezcal, but it is much more aromatic than tequila, with a very signature vegetal, floral flavor profile. That, to me, that's why sometimes I refer to it as the gin of the agave world. That's something I like to say, because these botanical elements and the nature of how it gets mixed in cocktails, it gets mixed a lot in sort of known gin cocktails like martinis and negronis, and this sort of, it pairs very well with other liqueurs and floral elements. And again, that is the general profile of Sotol. Then the terroir of Sotol actually plays a huge role, even more so than in other spirits, I would say. So, for example, right now we have on the market 2 varieties, from Desierto and from Sierra, which is the forest of the mountains. Desierto, I don't know if you had the chance to try it. A little drier, got sweet cocoa notes on the palate, some minerality, some hints of cooked piña smoke. I mean,
they're both very different from each other. Very different. That was not what I was expecting.
Yeah. Same plant, same process, just different terroir. The Sierra is much more earthy and herbal and wet forest vibe.
But yeah, because when it's just sitting here, you get a lot of those floral, those kind of grassy, I don't know, it doesn't hurt that I'm standing in front of all my wife's plants, but that's not what I'm smelling when I had opened these. It's very, like you said, it does have a little bit of that gin feeling in the sense of the botanicals and that kind of realm that it's living in, but the La Sierra is vastly different than the Desierto. That is amazing, and it goes to show you how climates and just where things are grown can change. And I guess and so you just have those two products at the moment.
Yes, we actually right now we have those 2, and we are working on a 3rd variety. That's gonna be the Pradera. So that's another thing I was looking at when I was just now in Mexico. So we're going to have 3 in 2023, hopefully more down the line. The idea is the more we explore, the more we discover, the more we share with the world. Really this has been, and I think it's something that hopefully can be transcended when you drink the product, but has really been a project of passion, of discovery, of adventure. We went to Mexico, we still are going, venturing in all these remote places, learning, discovering, meeting people. It's not one of those, it's not an easy thing, because Sotol is not a known category, so it's not easy to implement a brand. And really, it's been a whole beautiful adventure to create this, and I want to continue the adventure and have more varieties.
But I love the story behind this brand and what you were able to do, combining music and drinks. And like I always say, drinks bring people together, music brings people together. It's a perfect combination, I think. And you also get to promote and save possibly a little bit of history with music genre and a liquor that might have gone by the wayside to so many. And I appreciate you sharing that story with us.
No, of course, no. I appreciate you letting me recount it and having me on your show.
Check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hops Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here for our conversation, there are two, or I guess half now of the group, the Runaway Grooms. Please welcome in guitarist, vocalist Adam Tobin.
What's up? Cheers.
And bassist, vocalist Zach Gilliam.
Cheers. How we doing?
I'm good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great, man. We're expecting some snow.
Yeah.
Out here in Colorado tonight. So we just moved the van out of my lot because inevitably it was probably going to get stuck. So feeling we got some peace of mind now.
Yeah, we got some peace of mind. Our Touareg's a 2-wheel drive van up in the mountains with a lot of snow. Does not do well. So we went ahead and parked it on the street, and try to prep for it.
Hopefully it doesn't get hit by a plow truck or anything like that.
Well, fingers crossed. We don't have any snow in Kentucky yet. Well, I mean, we've had like a dusting, but that's been about it. And I'm okay with it only because people here don't know how to drive in the snow.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Everybody stays in, and I'm actually from Tennessee originally, so the grocery stores, like the bread and the milk just all disappear. Like it's never going to be around again.
Which, because that lasts super long in the cold, right? For days and days and days.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm sure it's the same thing happened in Kentucky, I'm sure.
Oh, gosh. And it's like, it's only an inch, people. It's not even like a real storm. The road will be clear tomorrow, I guarantee it.
It's the end of the world.
It is. It is wild. Now, I know what I enjoy if it's going to be a good snow day and I might be stuck inside. It might be a beer, maybe a little bourbon. Because you guys are from Colorado, or you're based in Colorado, I went with a little Breckenridge high proof blend tonight, a little whiskey. What are you guys drinking?
Yum, that sounds great.
So we're actually drinking up. I picked these up. I just found them at our local liquor store. It's Tiny Bomb, Wiseacre, which is actually a Memphis-based beer. So it was awesome to see them in our local liquor store. We're way up in the mountains, so Memphis is actually my hometown. So born and raised. So I saw the Tiny Bomb in there. I was like, I got to pick up some of those.
Buy 1,000 of them.
I was gonna say, so are you guys mainly just beer drinkers, or do you dabble in anything else?
Well, my nickname in the band is the Whiskey Wanderer. So when I like whiskey,
I wonder what it is you like.
I also like to wander, and when I drink whiskey, I like to wander even more. So yeah, I like bourbon. Yeah, I like all sorts of whiskeys. I'm not a huge Scotch guy quite yet. I can't call myself that. But
no, I'm not. I can't do Scotch. It's too earthy. Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's a lot. Very smoky.
I would say, like, in terms of liquor, I got a couple years ago. I kind of got turned on to gin, and just really, really enjoy, a good gin and tonic or whatnot. And there's a little town out here called Salida, Colorado, and there's a gin distillery that's it's called Woods Gin, and it is the smoothest tasting gin you'll ever taste. Highly recommend if you're able to. I saw the Breckenridge bottle you just held up. We also have that Breckenridge gin upstairs as well. I was thinking about it for the podcast, and then I said, yeah, I'll stick to Tiny Bomb.
You can have a few more of those tonight than you can with a nice strong gin drink. Now I know when we were kind of talking beforehand, you asked me one of the hardest questions I think you can ask anyone that does something like this. Like, if you could only drink one thing, what would it be? Especially beer. And I had to think like probably a Miller or a Coors, just because if I'm going to do this every day, it better be something I can enjoy every day.
Yeah.
Now, is that something like? Are you guys more on the light beer, IPA, craft, barrel aged? Little bourbon barrel, bourbon barrel ale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to really mix it up all the time. I feel like I'm always moving from different beers. Sometimes it's seasonal, but I really do. I grew up in New England, and like the hazy beers up there, and like the Heady Toppers in Vermont, and the people that have kind of came out of that same area after Heady Topper just make some incredible, strong IPAs and hazies, and even in Maine they have a bunch of different. There's these beers called it's a lunch beer. You can also get a dinner beer, and they're just these like really just like deep, flavorful IPA beers. But I'm also really into Belgian beers, and you have like the triples and the doubles and the hefts. I just love. I think they make such a clarified, full tasting beer that you can really just like sip on and enjoy, and it doesn't pack that sort of like fruity punch that a hazy does. And sometimes it's a little more enjoyable to sip on long term. So I go all over.
Something a little more approachable. Well, maybe not. I was gonna say maybe not approachable always, because some of those are a little stronger, but they're just smooth and good. And some of those other ones, you get a little too much fruit in there. You might only have one, and that might be.
Right. And it'd be great. It'd be a blast,
yeah.
Blast of flavor. But then winter comes around, and it's like I want just something dark, just like deep and heavy and big, like a big head on it. And
well, then you have my wife who does that, but has figured out how to enjoy a coffee blonde. Like that's like now her like favorite thing is like a coffee blonde, and it's like this is like the wrong combination, but it works so well.
Yeah,
coffee blonde. I think I may have had a coffee blonde at some point, but I don't really remember. It's just a lighter but coffee flavored.
Yep, blonde. Imagine a blonde ale, but coffee roasted. Kind of. So if you're looking for a little in between, that could be it.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen you guys enjoy some drinks on your, or at least have a drink with you on your socials. I also saw something pretty interesting a couple weeks ago that I don't think I could do. How cold was it taking that river plunge?
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Extremely cold.
Extremely cold. We were actually at some hot springs in Buena Vista, Colorado. We were in the hot springs, hanging out, relaxing. Played a show the night before, and we had a day off, so we decided to stick around and just hanging out in the hot springs. And it came to our attention that there was a cold plunge into the river on the other side of the hot springs. So
it's like my favorite part of it.
Oh man, it's.
I'm kind of a freak though. I don't know. I like that stuff.
It's awesome, man. It's kind of like that all year long. Like. Yeah. That was pretty cold. There was snow on the ground, and we just got out of the hot springs, so that one was pretty cold. I went numb immediately. It was awesome, but like all year round, in the summertime and whatnot, the rivers are so cold. You get in there, work on your breath, and it becomes this like meditative experience, and it's actually very rejuvenating. It's, if you can get past the mind, your body will survive, for so long, and it's not like we're staying in there for hours, but, a couple minutes, your body will be fine.
Yeah, it is.
And man, yeah, it sure wakes you up, but it gives you this energy that I haven't found anything else that can replicate that. Like, it's very special.
Yeah, I agree.
I just love how that was. Yeah, my day off. We're just going to take a plunge in the cold after warming ourselves up in the hot springs.
Yeah.
Like you said, nothing like a jolt.
Grace, right? That's the saving grace. We could jump in the river, and then And just hightail it straight to the hot spring and be all right.
It's supposed to be good for your muscles too, like to go from really hot and then to really cold. I mean, especially if you're working out, it's supposed to help. Just like, I don't know exactly the science behind it, but contract and then expand, contract, expand.
Well, and as many shows as you guys are doing, you got to stay in tip-top shape.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, seriously, like you can let yourself go pretty quick. I definitely got a bit of a beer belly after this, like last year, because that's the thing is like when you're playing, I like to have a little bit of whiskey here and there, but like you can't really get that drunk if you're going to be performing. So it's easy to have a couple beers, but they do add up after a while.
It's true.
Especially if we're going the craft route. Those bad boys pack a punch. Now, I know, we mentioned that you guys are based in Colorado. How did you all end up in Colorado? Because like you said, Memphis, New England, and I know there's a couple other guys in the group as well. How did you all end up in Colorado?
Yeah, I first went out to visit Justin, who's our drummer. I've known Justin since we were, I think I was literally 3 years old. My mom just reminded me of that the other day. I've known Justin when I was 3.
Because you guys grew up up same road?
Yeah, we grew up
like
across the street in Northborough, Mass, and Massachusetts, and so we grew up snowboarding. We learned to snowboard on a hill called Ward Hill. Is this tiny little hill in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, and it was pretty much like our daycare, like that our moms would drop us off after school. Just go to Ward Hill and like take snowboard lessons, and so he moved out here in probably 8 years ago. I think 8 years. And I just came out to visit after I had graduated college, and I just had so much fun with him again, and decided that it would be such a blast to kind of recreate a new chapter with him in my life. Not really thinking about music at all, just kind of let's start a new adventure and learn something new. And we started picking up music again and making joke songs and having fun. And slowly it evolved. We started accumulating new members.
Yeah, which is where I came in. I moved out in 2019. I was living in Nashville. I've been in Nashville for about 7 years or so. And, I was going from like band to band, and, it was Nashville's such a beautiful place and so amazing and very unique. And every time we tour back, like it's my favorite stop. Absolutely love it. But, it got to the point where I was just like, I wanted a change of scenery, and kind of wanted to sort of shift from like doing the band thing to just more like, well, why don't I just create songs and then hire people out to do this, versus like having a full band. And there's so many challenges that come with that. And so I said, well, I'm going to go up to Colorado for the winter, go up to the mountains and do some songwriting, just kind of lock myself in and write as many songs as I can for winter. I got up here and found out it's hella expensive. And I was like, all right, well, I think I need to pick up some work. I gotta get a job. And so I was like, well, I might as well play music. So, I started going out to the venues and the bars to just kind of like meet people and network. And I met these guys one night, and kind of the rest is history. From there, I was not a bass player prior to meeting these guys. I played guitar and sang and kind of like did that whole thing. And when they were playing, it was just a 3-piece. They had 2 guitars and a drummer and a bass sitting on stage. And I was like, oh man, I could play the roots for you guys. Like they were like, oh man, we could use someone on the bass. Yeah. So I just kind of like started like, I had no idea what I was doing.
Picked it up quick.
But I picked it up quick, and now, I mean, now by far it's my main instrument, and I play the bass quite a bit more than I play guitars now. But yeah, just weaved that way, and so in the meantime, like during that winter, Corona hit, so I was faced with this option. Let's go back to Nashville. I still have my house in Nashville, so let's go back to Nashville, which is an primarily entertainment-based economy. Or I could stay up in the mountains where it's, the culture is about being outdoors and outside, which is socially distant, like if we bring ourselves back to that time, no one knew what was going to happen. It was just like such a crazy time, and I just like kept imagining this like end of the world, like no more grocery stores, like, oh, I can fish out here, I can hunt, and my mind was all over the place. But yeah, that's how I got here.
Well, and like I said, there's a couple in the group, but you've kind of grown. You've lost one, and so forth. So how did the band kind of form over the time, and where does it sit today?
Yeah, the band started with Justin and I, and just playing some of my old songs on acoustic. I mean, he was playing on a cajon drum, and I just had an acoustic guitar. And this is back in 2017. And I met Zach Gilliam, who was formerly with the Runaway Grooms as the other guitarist. And literally was walking around employee housing on Beaver Creek one night, knocking on doors wherever I heard music. And Zach C, I heard a sound coming down the hallway. And it happened to be Zach C, and he was playing his lap steel guitar. And I was like, that sounds so crazy. I don't even know what instrument that is. And I knocked on his door. He thought I was an angry neighbor or something. And we ended up jamming that night. And I was like, well, I think you might be like the missing link that I've been looking for some of my music. Because everyone I had played with back home had joined other bands, and it was kind of like, well, I gotta, maybe it's time to move on. So finding him was really the crux, I think, and it turned into, well, we can get a gig at this brewery. Okay, let's learn these 12 songs and go do that. And it just turned into such a fun time because people are into that out here. They're just into going out.
Yeah.
Kind of getting partying scene a little bit. And yeah, and then I was like, well, I have all these original songs. And Zach was like, okay, like, why didn't you tell me that earlier? Let's play all these. Let's write it down. So we like arranged an album and moved into a house together in Leadville, which is like I don't know if you know Leadville, but it's technically, I heard it's the second highest incorporated town.
Second.
Yeah. Everyone always told me it's the first.
Yeah.
10,000. It's 10,000.
So it's on the mountaintop.
It's literally 10,200 feet above sea level. But it's like one of the cheaper places to live. So we were able to go live in this house and put an album together in the living room. And but anyways, it at one point felt like we were going like this for a while. And then at one point it started feeling like that. And we're like, well, we need bass. We're starting to get more experimental, so let's get some keys. And Cody and Zach happened to kind of come into place like within the same couple weeks. And yeah, it just went from there. The music changed, but we were always open to it changing and just kind of seeing where it goes and seeing where the song goes. And that's what the Grooms are now. I think it's a very eclectic mix because everyone does come from different backgrounds. And I think that comes out in some of our music too. You hear a bunch of different styles come through.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I think you guys coined it as Jam plus Americana as Jamericana. Is that, am I saying that even close?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's our favorite sport.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like we kind of like came through that term as like what's interesting out in Colorado, the jam scene is huge. Jam bands, people just live for jam bands, and it's not just Colorado. It's the country, but I mean the Northeast specifically and Colorado are just like big jam scenes. And we dive into that. We a lot of our music does, kind of move into that, but one thing we feel as if we're bringing to the table that isn't brought to the table a lot in the jam scene is the songwriting roots in like a folk background, country background, songwriting roots within that. So it's not just like this crazy 15-minute jam or anything like that. There's more of a storytelling aspect behind and structure behind the songs that we're writing that we feel that way. But there's also we feel like, or at least myself anyways, I feel like we've created space for instrumental conversation. And what I'm calling instrumental conversation, people in the jam world really connect with and call a jam,
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I mean, to me, I mean, if you think about it, like, Americana traces its roots back to kind of Irish folk music, which is a lot of that. I mean, of that instrumental storytelling. So it's just a new way to kind of tell that.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
I've also been, we've, especially with the new music that we're releasing too, it kind of has a lot of roots rock vibe. I would say. I mean, almost a lot of it even leans towards like Southern rock because there's like slide guitar going on, Hammond organ, a lot of that of what like the Allman Brothers brought to the table, that sort of vibe. So yeah, I mean, and like Adam was saying, like between all our backgrounds, we're bringing so much inspiration and like influences to the table from, I mean, jazz to freaking hip hop. I mean, we listen to everything, honestly. Good music is good music, is what I like to say.
Well, that's what I was talking about that with someone recently. It was actually someone who was helping us out with our bio, but I was talking about how, like, if you're listening to music at this point in our generation, you have so much to listen to. There's been so much good music that's been put out there. So if you're listening to it and you're in tune to it, it's hard not to be somewhat influenced by just a myriad of genres. I mean, including pop music. And we've grown up on pop music since we were probably in the womb,
Sure.
And it's always on the radio. But then you get into some of these more niche projects, like the Grateful Dead, or like I know Cody on keys is really into like Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and it's just hard not to pull from so many different areas. And then when you start writing a song, to kind of give the freedom to let that song go where it needs to go, and sometimes you end up with a 13-minute instrumental, and sometimes it turns into a folk pop song or something,
Sure. Yeah.
well, and I think that's the beauty of even the albums that you guys have put out. There's a little bit of everything in that spectrum that you guys play in. But even before that, Runaway Grooms. How did you come up with the name?
That's this guy.
Man. Yeah, it's like when you're sitting around with your friends and you just kind of stoned, and you think, oh, this would be a funny band name. That's kind of honestly how the Runaway Grooms came about. I mean, I didn't really never thought it was going to be my band. It was a while ago. I thought, no, that'd be kind of funny if it was like a female lead vocalist playing with the Runaway Grooms. and like kind of like Mariah Carey and the Runaway Grooms. And the Runaway Grooms, I just created kind of this like concept of tattered suits, and they could play with anybody. Like, oh, it's Sam Bush is playing with the Runaway Grooms, or whatever. And we needed a band name one night at one of these gigs, and I said, well, I've had this one in my back pocket, and
there it is. You know, we also like to make up funny stories for the band name as well, because it's such an opportunity. And of course, we get that question
every time,
all the time. So a lot of times between the band, we make it a joke amongst ourselves, who can tell the most outrageous story of how the band name came to be.
Yeah.
And so, luckily for you and our listeners today,
you get the real story.
You get the real story.
There's other stories too with it, but we're not going to disclose that today.
Hey, I love hearing how some folks get their names. The country band Everett, they named themselves after "Oh Brother Where Art Thou," but before that they literally couldn't figure out anything, and they were in the studio going as, I think, the Butthole Truckers. Just because they couldn't think of anything, and they taken like two other band names and just kind of blended them together because they didn't have anything, and that almost took. And then they're like, it might not work.
It's tough, actually.
You never know.
I noticed that, like, if you're looking for a band name now, they're out there, but you have to get really creative, and you'll realize, like, you think you have this, because we actually spoke about, as we started getting like momentum and stuff, like none of us initially were very attached to this name, as it just kind of came from what Adam said. Yeah. And so, there was a while there we were like considering rebranding and like, searching for a different name. And the majority of what you think, you come up with this brilliant idea for a name, and then you find out there's already 3 bands named that. Thanks to the internet, you can find like all this, and it just kind of stuck. So here we are
on the run.
Well, and like you said, you're allowed to have some fun with folks and give them a good story on who ran away. And
right.
or you can say 2 out of 4 of us ran away. Figure it out.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, now technically we all ran away because none of us are from Colorado.
There you go.
And whether or not
true.
we were running from something or towards something, it's up to interpretation. But the only rule is now you can't get married, or else you can't be in the band.
Or you'll have to find a new name, and that as we've just said, that could be tough. Now, I know. Looking back to when you guys released your first album, because you're coming up on your 3rd one. Talk about tough timing. It was literally right before pretty much the world shut down. How did that impact everything for y'all?
Yeah, it was. Considering like the what you try to do is you come out with a new album and then you tour it, and it being our first album, which really it was really just the original 3 members who recorded it and were involved with that project. So it wasn't too against against tradition for it not to be like something that we like. The fact that we didn't go out and tour as a 5-piece wasn't the biggest deal, because I don't think it honestly wasn't the original dream of the band. We never really thought it would get. It just wasn't in our purview of what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to get that album out because we loved the songs, and then from there it was just like, well, now what? We got these 2 new members. It was almost good timing because it was good for us to go back to the drawing board
Sure.
with this new sound.
I mean, yeah. And I came into the picture prior to the album being released. The album was pretty much already recorded by the time I got into the picture. But there was no release strategy or tour intentions or anything outside of Colorado, which is what we were already doing. You know, we were hitting all the ski towns, playing in the breweries and stuff like that. And it was just like, you know, these guys made some music because they love to fucking make music. And
it was like a baby it was like a little baby of mine. It was like a dream album, little baby songs I had been sitting on for maybe 6 years.
Sure. Yeah.
And then it like came to light.
Yeah.
Incredibly.
Through the pandemic, we kind of like started gathering, okay, like what is it we're trying to do with this project? Let's set some goals, etc. And, you know, the album for what it was, not being on a label, independently produced and put out there, did really well. And I was the only one coming into the band who had previously been doing a bunch of touring. It was something I was interested in, and everybody kind of like connected on that as well. It gave us some time to know those songs a bit more, write some more material as a 5-piece, which evolved into our second album. We pretty much wrote all of that during the pandemic stuff when we couldn't play shows. But yeah, it's it was quite interesting. Like the pandemic, literally, I think that came out like
came out
like March 1st or something like that, and the pandemic was like March 10th. Something ridiculous like that within a week or something.
Yeah.
And it's pretty wild, man. Pretty wild, but kind of that it was a forced. It was like you can no longer play shows. It's not up to you. You're not going to play, unless you're playing from a cell phone or a computer at your house. And that kind of like it allowed for us to grow a lot, especially as a 5-piece with 2 new members. It was actually pretty opportunistic for us, I would say.
Absolutely.
Well, and I was going to ask, I mean, how has everything changed for you? Because now the third album, This Road, is set to come out in February 2023. So how have things changed then? Obviously, I know you became a 5-piece. I think you're back down to kind of a 4-piece at the moment. So, I mean, and the sound even changed a little. Well, maybe not a little bit, but you guys kind of found your sound.
Sure. Yeah.
The whole scheme of it has shifted for sure as to preparing for tours and kind of re-strategizing around playing for bigger audiences and being a band that can kind of can really put on a show that's like sort of a unified thought and like a hopefully a finished sentence where we've gone from folk rock to being able to string together like 3 songs with instrumental jams in between and really be able to be a bit more experimental with our sound. And it's just become honestly a lot of fun because what you have in mind is you want to put on a good show and you want to take people somewhere and tell a story. And so it's just really helped us grow as musicians. And I see us now in band practice and it's like, things just feel more streamlined and I feel like we communicate clearer and better. And we're learning all the time how to do that the right way. But we're, learning how to listen to each other in and outside the band room and have bonded so much on the road. I mean, we've been through a lot, and just like last spring, we lost 2 transmissions and we're stuck in the middle of Florida. And it's like moments like that just bring you closer. And so yeah, I think it's become a bit more cohesive in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, keep it short. In the best sense possible, it's morphed into like more of a professional ordeal. We've got merch guys, roadie, video stuff going, agent, publicist. Like it's become this train that we're all happy to be on board with. But it challenges our creativity, and like especially with us, is like you're not going to get the same set every night. From city to city, we're going to mix it up, and that's for us. Like mostly is just like
for the viewer, but
to be interesting and to not be the same thing over and over regurgitated. We're trying to create a special, memorable, unique moment and show, and that's like advanced. And I would say, like, backing that to like, when I first joined the band, we were in the breweries, local breweries here, and it was the coolest thing ever. It was so cool, all our homies, and it's just like a mountain ski vibe, and everybody skis all day, and then you party hard at night, and it was just like the coolest family and experience. And like now we've kind of like taken what we were getting from that and like spreading that across the country. So we're having those experiences in Boston and Vermont and California and like whatever, and we're like building all these like families across the country, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, you guys enjoy the road, because I think last year you played almost 100 shows, and this year you were well over 120 or more.
Yeah.
So what is it about the road that you just love?
What I mean, hence our new album name, This Road. I mean, we couldn't help but draw inspiration from literally, everything that's going on. There's so much on the road, so much growth and bonding, and ups and downs, and there's so many stories to tell from this road. And so like that's what this third album really is about. And Adam mentioned we lost 2 transmissions in
10 days.
Within like 10 days. We got it. Long story short, transmission dropped in Miami. We $3,000 cash, got it, brought it up to Georgia, played 2 shows. Within 48 hours, it broke down again in Alabama somewhere, in Birmingham, Alabama. And, it was just a shit show. But, there's so many of those. But then there's like, Floyd Fest or Summer Camp, where we're playing to thousands of people. And it's just such this high, or sold out shows. And, it's just like connecting with the audience and doing that through something that we created. That's an original thing. Concept is just like you just can't replicate that. It's very special. So that's what this album is about, is being on the road.
Well, and you also took an interesting approach. I think I read where it's not the typical studio produced album where you kind of do the click tracks and things like that. You wanted this one to have a real live feel, like it would be at your show.
Sure.
Yeah.
We saw that with the last out Violet Lane we recorded. Yeah. I think we maybe did all the tracks to a click.
Yeah.
But we did realize, like, final product, like, we were kind of like, man, this isn't quite the energy or the vibe of what it is live. And we really knew that and felt that after that last album.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been recording our live shows, and we went into the studio in Memphis, Tennessee, for this album, and we like the organic push and pull of the tempo and not being, perfect, but more like capturing the emotion that we're trying to share. And sometimes with that is not a cookie cutter tempo concept, I mean, sometimes there, these songs, even Jenny, we just released Jenny, it speeds up and then it slows down, and it's kind of like it's breathing and like it's living, and we wanted to capture that with this album, and so we recorded it live. We did some dub overs, for example. Cody would play upright piano, but also like the Hammond B3. But like in the studio, you can't record them both at the same time, just because they'll like bleed into each other. So like he would lay down the B3 and then go back and put the piano on it. But the core of all that music was recorded live. Yeah.
Well, there's like an energy too when you're playing all together that we are so used to, that once you take a couple members away, you're like, well, I don't even realize it, but I usually feed off of that person a lot,
totally,
or whatever it is. So it definitely helps to have us all plugged in at once and just getting after the song. It's what we're used to. So.
Well, and you mentioned that for that first single, Jenny, and for you, Adam, you kind of wrote the lyrics as a letter to, your grandmother, to your mom, and I think even Cody kind of got the melody from, after his grandfather passed. That song, I feel like, has a lot of meaning to y'all.
Yeah, it does. It's got a lot of gravity to it, and it really stems from Cody writing it, and it's cool to see the product that comes out of that, because you never know how it's going to turn out in its first inception. But I didn't know Cody was kind of like influenced by maybe his grandpa being on his deathbed, and the lyrics for me just started to come out where I started to sing somebody's name, because sometimes I'll just start singing lyrics before I know what to say. And Justin was like, "Are you saying your mom's name? Are you saying Jenny?" And I was like, "I don't even think I was saying Jenny, but now I want to be singing Jenny. And then now, why am I singing about my mom? Okay." Now I feel like I'm writing a letter to my mom, but yeah, I don't want to write the letter. I want it to come from someone else. So it just like turned into this really heavy thing. And the heaviness of it was even more exasperated because it was the first track we were recording in the album where our transmission literally had just burnt out in Florida, and we had to get a rent-a-car up to Memphis because we were scheduled to record the album. So there was so much emotion going on. We knew Zach was going to be leaving us soon. There was just like an incredible amount of heaviness and emotion going on. And I think it all just accumulated into that song.
Yeah. Everything,
and the whole album, really.
Everything he said. And then Jeremy Horn, who helped us produce this album, I feel like he really like brought a lot of that, helped us like hone in a lot of that and like shape it into what it came out to be, as well as like we took these songs we had written, and with everything going on, transmission, Zach leaving, like
we're in the middle of a tour.
In the middle of a tour, I mean, honestly, the transmission like bankrupted us, like because we had to get 2 of them twice, and so like Jeremy Horn just said, "Look, find a way to get up here to Memphis. Let's make a record. We'll figure out whatever has to happen." And really, like, I don't know, for me personally, like mentored us like through that. We came into the studio with all this heaviness of everything we were living out, and
he's such a positive influence.
Such an amazing influence, and actually, the next single off the album is called "Heart Work," and it's literally about it's working through, especially on the road. There's a lot of there needs mental health. There's a lot of mental health stuff that goes up and down and push and pull, and living out of a van with our crew, six people with our crew, and so it's Jeremy Horn brought that concept of heart work, which we wrote we wrote in the studio an hour before we recorded it, and it just came from all the inspiration that was happening, right then and there, and so that's what we came out with.
Well, it's a great album. I've got to listen to parts of it, and it's a lot of fun, and it's something totally different. If you're thinking Americana, don't go in there exactly with that mindset. Like I said, the Jamericana, or however you say it, it does not roll off the tongue for me. Yeah. Maybe that's the bourbon. I don't know.
Jamericana, sounds Jamaican.
But as we kind of wrap up, the runawaygrooms.com, find them on social media too. You can see them taking some polar plunges, maybe having a good drink, having some fun. Mm-hmm. The album comes out in February. You're taking a little time off for the holidays as you kind of, slow down after a long time on the road to record this road.
Yeah.
What can folks expect from you guys in 2023?
Oh man, we have some good stuff working up. We're not allowed to say just yet, but we have some great festival shows coming up for spring and summer. That's coming through. Also some good headlining things that we're doing, but also we're jumping in as support for some really great acts. As of now, that's Colorado. And then West Coast stuff with them, which should come out probably the beginning of the year or so. Tour dates and those announcements. To finish out 2022, we have a show at 10 Mile Music Hall in Frisco, Colorado, which will be our final show of the year. And then we kick off the new year with Heart Work, our next single off the album, dropping January 6th. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll definitely be back on the road, the whole country, essentially, 2023.
Yeah, the next album maybe will be These Roads.
Maybe These Roads.
Well, I like it too. A good tease, you gotta leave them wanting more. So you gotta go keep the social, check the website for when these tour dates come, because you don't want to miss anything. I mean, it's like you guys are professionals. You know exactly how to sell this. And my last question, because I don't know if you guys have been able to do this yet or not. I read somewhere where your goal, or if you could play in one place ever, it'd be Red Rocks. Have you gotten to do that yet?
Not yet. Not just yet. We have played.
Is it potentially in 2023 on the bucket list?
It's on the bucket list. It's on the bucket list. I will say. Over the past 2 years, we got to play some very iconic Colorado venues: Ford Amphitheater, the Nottingham Park, Mishawaka Amphitheater, amazing. Cervantes, all kind of amazing venues out here. And Red Rocks is like that gold. Red Rocks is that one we're gonna keep on until we're there. Mm-hmm. And it's not that far out of sight. So keep on the lookout for that one.
Yeah, we had a song that we were driving. So Red Rocks is in the town called Morrison, and We started to write a
Oh, yeah.
song that I'd like to bring back. The sign said "High Winds to Morrison," and I feel like that's the ride we're on right now. It's high winds to Morrison, but hopefully it's in the future. Yeah, we'll see. We'll keep trying.
That's for sure.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And like I said, new album comes out in February, next single in January, and their debut single off that album, Jenny, is out now if you want to give a listen to it. Zach, Adam, this was a blast, and thanks for sharing a drink with me.
Man, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate you having us.
Cheers, man.
Cheers to everybody out there.
Cheers, guys.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.